tradition in Asian countries to bow like this. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share the Lord's message with you this morning. We all want to change, don't we? I know my wife wants me to change every day. In fact, she demands it. I know it took me 10 years to understand that I do have to change. She doesn't like the way I drive. We're always going down to Watt Avenue, trying to get on 50. And, I learned to drive when I was in New York. So if you're a slow driver, you're not going to get anywhere. And I realized at a very young age that if I just go a little bit faster than the person next to me, you don't really have to look. You just go a little faster. And so I suppose I didn't know, but I had a habit of waiting at the last minute to exit, trying to get on an exit lane to exit. And so I guess it was causing quite a bit of consternation for my wife. And she had been complaining, asking me to change. And she says, why don't you get on the exit lane early enough because you're giving me anxiety. So it took 10 years to finally listen to her. But everybody wants me to change. But what change are we talking about? Do we need to change ourselves? Or what is it that we really need to change? My patients want me to change the way I do things. I do work comp, so they want me to write them off of work. It's quite a bit of struggle each time. I give them restrictions, but they want to be off of work many times, and they get their attorneys to call me to say, hey, the patient needs to be off of work, so they want me to change the way I do things. The insurance company wants me to change the way I do things. My kids want me to change. Have a little more pleasant voice every day. I want to change. Okay, what is it that you guys want to change?
Change your heart.
Change of heart. How is that going to happen? I want to be able to do more exercises. I'm a physical medicine rehab doctor, and I want to be a good example. It took me 25 years to learn to exercise every day. Just over the last 12 months, I made a commitment, and finally happened. I've been working on it for 20 years. I used to exercise maybe 2-3 times a week. I've run marathons. I've done different things. I want to look better. And so we all have things that we want to change, right? Oh boy. Could I get another? I'm sorry. It said the battery's running low. Let's see if it. So it says, "Do not grieve." Prophet Nehemiah says, "Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." We're going to need a lot of strength for us to change. There's a group of people, okay, that are most resistant to change. Do you guys know who they are? I'm not talking about your spouses. I'm not talking about your kids. Old people. Surprisingly, old people, as we get older, the mark getting older, another word is becoming more mature. We end up with more intelligence and wisdom, what we call wisdom. Thank you. And, surprisingly, we can change people. Like I said, I exit early on. And one day I did that, and all of a sudden, one day she says, "Why are you going so slow? Just go around this front of a truck." So then I asked her, which is that you want me to do? Do you want me to go on the fast? Do you want me to go fast, or you want me to slow down, get on the exit lane, and take my time? And you know what she said? I want you to do what I tell you to do every time. Just listen to me. So even with some changes, we have to stay flexible. Sometimes we change, other times we don't. But there's a group of people, and I'm going to give you a hint. I'm a doctor. I am a pain management doctor, trained in physical medicine rehab. There's one group of people that are very resistant to change. And we throw a lot of resources to change their behavior. Because their behavior, for whatever it's worth, is so destructive. What group of people do you think I'm talking about? I do pain management. Doctors are difficult to change, right? I'm talking about addiction. Addiction is so difficult to change. In fact, as we know now, we don't have any treatment, any medical treatment that really treats addiction per se. We have some medications, but it doesn't work. Okay? Even when they want to change, even though they have a strong desire to change, they can't change. Right? And this is a huge problem. Over 110,000 people in this country died from overdosing on medications, opioid medications, and fentanyl. And you guys hear about that, right? And the government felt that maybe it's the doctor's fault. Doctors were prescribing all these opioids, and we did. 80s, 90s, OxyContin came around, 1998. That was right in the middle of my training. We came out, I prescribed opioids for 15 years until I stopped doing that about 5 years ago. And so the government says, stop prescribing them. So we did. We reduced our opioid prescription by 50%, 40 to 50%, across the country since 2012. And come 19, 2020, 2021, they saw increase in opioid-related death, not decrease. And every year we're seeing increase. Now we're up at 110,000, which is, we used to be alarmed in 2010, 2011, when the number was 40,000 people, which is roughly the number of people that die from car accidents every year, 35 to 40,000 people. We're at 110, 120,000 people across the country. San Francisco, they don't know what to do. In Oregon, they try to legalize opioids and say, maybe we should just let them have it. Let's focus on treating them, rehab, let's educate them. Within 2 years, they had to reverse the law because it was crashing their system, all the fentanyl. And so addiction is probably one of the most difficult human behavior to change. Has anyone fallen in love? Neuroscientists say when someone has fallen in love, now there's only one antidote that we know to falling in love. You guys, when you guys have kids, they fall in love and then start dating. My daughter is 18, 17, going on 18, and I know she's going to bring somebody someday. I may not be happy with it, but if she's in love, am I going to change her mind? Can I tell her, hey, I don't know if that's the right guy for you. Huh? Am I going to be able to convince her to have different thoughts? The neuroscientists say romantic feeling, love, falling in love is very similar to an addiction problem. In fact, they take a picture of the brain and almost looks the same. Okay? So we now know that there's only one antidote for falling in love, and we call that marriage. Within about a year and a half, the romantic feeling subsides, and now the reality hits of making your marriage work. Right? So we know that it's not the romantic feeling that maintains a successful marriage. Right? Addiction is a brain phenomenon. It's very difficult to change. Fortunately, the research has been looking at it and studying it, and this is what they found. Okay? All right, so I'm going to tell you how to change people. All right? How do people get better from we're talking about transformation, right? People that are, these studies apply to people that are struggling with addiction, okay? The first thing I want to share with you is that Sigmund Freud was a genius of a psychologist now about 100 years ago, 80, 90 years. We now know that he's made 3 grave errors. Okay, the first error that he made was that he believed everyone's human psychology and psychological illness, depression, and anxiety, and what they used to call neurasthenia, where people lose energy and they don't have the motivation to do anything, was due to repression of sexual urges and needs. We now know that's not true. I certainly know that's not true for my wife. And it's not part of the reality. Sex is not what drives people's mind. Okay? Second error that he made is what's called an idea of conversion. Not the religious conversion that you guys are familiar with. But he used to think that if your psychology is messed up, if you're unhappy, you're depressed, or you have anxiety, and somehow it manifests itself through a conversion process from the psychology to human body, and you end up having pain. And so people believe for a long time that, hey, when you have pain, back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, headaches, and we really can't find any pathology in your body, and your MRI looks okay, well, something must be wrong with your psychology. And many people still think that. We've known for about 40 years that psychology does not drive pain or illnesses in our body. Okay? So our body kind of falls apart, and then it affects our psychology. The idea of conversion, this mysterious conversion from psych to physical body, we haven't been able to find that. So Freud was wrong in that regard. Okay, the psychoanalysis based on that idea, we now know doesn't work. We do something else called cognitive behavioral therapy. The third element that he got wrong is he deeply believed that if we just provided insight and understanding, that people will change. And I suspect that many of you probably believes the same. I know my wife does, because she'll keep explaining things to me, hoping that I will change. She'll say it 10 different ways, trying to explain why I have to pick up my shoes and put it away when I come home. It doesn't make sense to me why I have to put my shoes away when I'm going to be pulling them out next time I go out. I say, why don't we just leave it in this place? Why do I have to put it away? Right? There's no amount of insight that we know. Okay? Most people that smoke knows that it's bad for them, right? They have an understanding, insight. Okay? But it does not lead to change. Just because we preach the truth and we explain to our heart's content that Sabbath is the truth, it doesn't change people's minds. It does not change their behavior. So the reasoning and the insight and all the arguments that we provide, okay, and no matter how strongly you believe or I believe that what I know is the absolute truth, it does not change people. We need to understand that, which means that we have to stop arguing, because there's something else that changes people. Next, 24% of the alcoholics get better on their own. I don't have much time to share all the information that I prepared that I want to share with you, because my clock says I have 13 minutes left. I'm going to tell you that when you see somebody doing wrong things, maybe somebody's living in sin, maybe you kids are experimenting with drugs, maybe they're smoking marijuana, maybe they're not showing up to school, maybe they're not doing their schoolwork, okay? And we want them to change. We want their behavior to change. And it's breaking your heart. Try leaving them alone, because you will succeed 24% of the time. That's better than any intervention that we know for alcoholics. The best intervention that we know is what? For alcoholics. Is what? That's what I'm telling you. Alcoholic Anonymous. Yes? Studies show that Alcoholics Anonymous works the best. But if you watch them for 5 years, their success rate, as best as we know, is in somewhere in the teens. 14, 15%, maybe 17%. If you go out 5 years. And that's with seeing them every single day for the first 90 days. And then putting them on a big brother, big sister, and calling them every day, hey, you doing okay today? Did you have the urge? Hey, have you got enough support? With that kind of intervention, we only have about 15, 16% success rate. To this day, the best way to quit smoking is cold turkey, according to studies. Somebody just says, I'm done with it. Okay, they've known all along, but they just quit. 24% success rate if you just leave them alone. I cannot tell you how much harm the doctors cause by trying to fix something. That is so true in my field with chronic pain. We've known for a long time. Do you know what the third leading cause of death in America is? Number one cause of death in America is heart disease. The number one cause of heart disease is hypertension, which is called the silent killer, right? Number two cause of death in America is malignant cancer. Nobody knows what the third leading cause of death in America is in most developed countries because nobody talks about it. It's called iatrogenic cause of death. You might say, what the heck does that mean? It's people that died because they went to see a doctor and the doctor did something to them and there was a complication. Doctor was trying to help you and ended up killing you. That's what iatrogenic cause of death is. We screw up so many things in life because we're trying so hard to change things. That's why I don't like Trump or Biden or whoever you don't like. They may be trying too hard. All right? When we leave things alone, we're not leaving it alone. We're telling them, I don't know what to do with you, but I still love you. And we're leaving it to God. Amen. And saying, I don't know how this is going to improve. I don't know how I can get you to change. Stop the destructive behavior. But right now, I'm just going to pray with you. Because that's all I can do. Try leaving them alone. Second and third, the studies show that confrontation is the arch enemy of change. I tell the guy, what the heck is wrong with you? I have friends. Every time they get together, they got to drink. And when they start drinking, they want to get slammed. I said, what the heck is wrong with you, dude? You know, you sound like a freaking idiot. You keep saying the same thing over and over again. You think it's funny. It's not funny. And then you got to go out for a smoke. You know, you're 52 years old. I'm a doctor. I'm telling you, you're going to drop dead and you got kids. Before you reach 60, I want to say these things. I want to confront them. I want to tell them, why are you being so stupid? Just stop. Stop eating the Haagen-Dazs, my wife says. You preach about health messages and you come home and you can't stop Haagen-Dazs. I tell you what, leave me alone. I'm going to have my Haagen-Dazs. Okay? It'll change in time. But confrontation, the researchers say, is the arch enemy of change. They already know. They already know they're in trouble. Right? Next, there's no power in willpower. We just say, hey, why don't you just stop eating? For people that are struggling with obesity. Have you seen Oprah Winfrey? Yeah. Do you think she's pretty smart? At one time, she was the number one personality on TV. She made $65 million a year. She's pretty damn smart. She's got great willpower. But we now know willpower is not going to get the change done. That's a completely different discussion. But we cannot blame these people for being weak. It's much bigger than that. All right? Next. This you may not understand. You may not have known. Ambivalence is essential for change. That's what the studies show. What does ambivalence mean? Ambivalence means that I have mixed feelings. I don't know what the heck to do with you. I don't even know what you're doing is actually wrong. That's ambivalent feeling. It's called having contradictory ideas about someone or something. This is actually a pretty new word in psychology, ambivalence. It's only about 50 years old in literature. We have ambivalent feelings. Okay? Mark of intelligence, philosophers tell us, is the ability to hold opposing ideas at the same time and be okay with it. Okay? Sign of maturity is the ability to hold different feelings. All right? As we get older, do you feel nostalgic? Nostalgia has two feelings. One is sadness and one is joy. How can you feel joy and sadness? It's a sadness from loss of your past. And you actually feel good about it. All right? Having mixed feelings is part of being human. It's the complexity of our brain that's required to handle the big challenges in life. That's why young kids can't solve big problems. We need the old people to understand the big problems because we know how to have ambivalent feelings. Finally, what we know is the research tells us that people will not change unless there's joy. They have to feel joy for them to want to change. So we have to understand joy in 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you about a concept that you already know, but scientists, we like to put difficult words in there just to confuse you. It's called hormesis. Now, broccoli, it does not exist in nature. But broccoli is good. George Bush, the president, he said, I don't have to eat broccoli. After all, I'm the president of the United States. I guess his mother wanted him to have a lot of broccoli. He was tired of it. Broccoli is good for you. Just like it's considered one of the superfoods, just like blueberries. But what we know about broccoli and many of these similar plants like cauliflower and stuff is that there's poison in there. Did you know that? It's called a sulforaphane. It poisons the mitochondria, the energy factory in the cells. In fact, it's so poisonous that in the broccoli, if you go in to analyze it, it's contained, this element is contained in like a cyanide capsule. You know the cyanide capsule cup? And you have to bite it, and it explodes, and it's a poison to kill yourself. It's walled off in their cells, and if an animal or you bite into it, the cells break, and this capsule releases, and the poison becomes available. So it causes all kinds of damage in our body, but why do we say, and why do studies show that broccoli is good for us? What I want you to know is this concept of hormesis. Hormesis says that in biology and medicine, it's an adaptive response that God designed in our body. That when you have moderate or intermittent sources of irritation and stress, okay, we actually get stronger. It's a biological principle that's built in. They did a study in Chernobyl. You guys know Chernobyl, right? In Ukraine, the nuclear reactor blew up about 28, 30 years ago. 10 years ago, they went in there, tagged all these wolves. and see how long they survive. And they compared it to wolves that are outside. When you go to Ukraine in Chernobyl, they still have high level of radiation. To make the long story short, they found that these wolves have about 7 times less cancer rate than the wolves that are living in the areas with no radiation. It's a principle called hormesis. In fact, there are about 200 people that decided to remain in Chernobyl 25, 30 years ago, say, I'm not going to leave. A few years ago, a journalist went in there, and you can get this on the internet, and interviewed these people. There were 200 babushkas, they were called, old ladies that were living there, 200 of them. When they compared those, how long these ladies were living, compared to people that were forcibly relocated, 100,000 of them, these people were living longer. So this is the idea of hormesis. I have a simple message for you as my time is running out. You all need irritation in your life. That's why married people live longer than unmarried people. My wife has been wonderfully a constant and consistent source of irritation for me for the last 20 years. And I'm very thankful for that because I've gotten so much stronger. When you feel stronger, when you level up, as the kids say when they're playing the games, all right, because you've acquired new adaptive skills, because you figured out how to handle a problem or irritation or stress or frustration. When you level up, okay, that's when you feel joy. Joy does not come from just feeling happy. It's not. Real joy comes when you feel yourself that you've gotten stronger. This is why we know that now being stressed out, okay, these are new studies coming out of Stanford and many other places. It's better for us. We perform better. We experience more excitement. It makes life more meaningful. It's easier to value life. When all these things are happening, that's when I feel joy. That's when I get excited about life. This is why Bible says the purest form of joy is what? All right, let's read it together. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials. I tell you, I face trials every day when I'm seeing patients because I hate them. They complain about pain incessantly, and they expect me to solve their problems. I hate that. I hate the staff that works for me because they never do what I tell them to do. It's a constant source of a problem. I'm trying to figure that stuff out. I've been working on it for 20 years, but it's not working. But it's been getting better. And it's a source of a little bit of joy for me. My kids drive me crazy. It's a huge problem. Okay? My son says, I don't want to go to school. I say, why not? Do you want to work in the factory? Look, when we face trials of many kinds, okay, and we test our faith, this is when we feel pure joy. What I want to tell you is that when you experience frustration and you're stressed out, just take a second back and say, this may be the greatest source of joy that I'm going to experience. All right? Because God is with me every moment of the way. Right? Look at this. Nehemiah said, let's celebrate. Let's have the best choice meat, fat off the calf. Let's have the sweet drinks. You guys go for sweet drinks once in a while? I prefer Pete's over Starbucks. Yes, when did he say that in chapter 8? Okay, he said, do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. after he built the wall, after he went through all the tribulations, after he figured out all the threats and anger, all the ridicule, and all the discouragement, all the slander and conspiracy, on and on and on, both within and also from without. He went fasting for 4 months to get a chance to go back to Israel so that he can rebuild Jerusalem. After all the tribulations, he said, let's party, because I feel good. I feel pure joy. All right? And this is my prayer with you today. Next time that you feel irritated, next time you feel stressed out, all right, there lies an opportunity. What you may think is the poison in broccoli, what we now know happens is that when it goes into our cell, the sulforaphane causes a little bit of irritation on that cell, and the cell says, man, I better pay attention. I better beef things up. So the cells actually get healthier because of that little irritation. Every antioxidant that we know, every color that we see in the plants and fruits and grains for that matter, okay, has a distinctively different antioxidant. We've identified 8,000 different antioxidants. Every single antioxidant is kind of a little bit of poison, a little bit irritant that goes into your system and just makes everything stronger because it keeps us on our toes. It teaches our cells and our bodies and our minds to figure things out. This is the greatest joy, source of joy. And I believe this is how God intended for us to experience the pure joy. And with pure joy, it's so easy to change things because then it becomes natural. Shall we read this together? Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. And we need strength, yes? We need strength to change because my wife demands it. My kids demands it. Everyone demands it. Let's work towards changing our lives because this is how God intended for us to experience joy. Thank you for having me here, and have a wonderful Sabbath. Thank you.